Hello, and welcome to the Disc Dungeon, where we put you on to musics and melodies in the deepest, darkest dungeons of your computer disc. I'm your co-host, Joe Dove, and with me, as always,
Julian Valencia. And if there's one thing we love talking about, it's music.
As a culture, we tend to focus on the before and after. In this episode, we shine a much-needed light on the process of transforming. That period of time where we melt ourselves down to the very essence and begin to sculpt ourselves into what we want to be. For some of us, we explode like supernovas, and others shapeshift like chameleons. We pick these albums because they foreshadow the inevitable change to come in both cases. Changes that sent waves across the world.
Oh, God.
What up, Julian?
What's up, Joe?
Oh, man, it's so good to be back in the dark depths of the Disc Dungeon with you, talking about music.
Man, it's always great to hear you sing right even before we hit a minute into this podcast.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for those that are like, wow, that guy's really tone deaf.
Now, man, but let's get right into it, man. I put you on to Starboy by The Weeknd. What did you think?
Great album. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you it's a 10. More than one reason, because I went back and I favorited some songs, and they've been in my playlist. They've even shown up on my daily drive, which is what I... yeah, well done, sir. Well done, sir. Nice. So I have a playlist that I listen to so I don't hear the various sounds and unfortunate troubles with the bus, because that bus breaks down and it goes... and we're like, what's going on? So I'm just off listening to The Weeknd. Now, let me tell you, with The Weeknd, the rise of synth continues. Well, it rises big with this guy. This isn't the first time we've been put on to The Weeknd. Remember?
Yes, I do.
Yes. So our boy Arvin, friend of the pod, he put us on to him for a tricks of the keys. Remember we used to have that jingle?
Remember when I used to call it Tatica?
Oh, and Homeboy used to get so mad. Anyway, if you're not familiar with that, make sure you listen to our pod all the way to the end. And I'm telling you, it's going to become one of your favorite sections in the show. 100%. All right, back to the album. So The Weeknd, he went through his supernova changes into his giant metamorphosis, because he not only changed his sound and the way his production is, but he changed his look. He changed his hairstyle. He changed the way he shaves his beard. He really went all out. You know, you've done that a few times. I remember you used to have that a Spaniard conquistador. Remember you had that?
Yeah, when we started doing the podcast, I had short hair, and then I let my hair grow out for 2 years. So I looked exactly like como un conquistador, and now I'm back to short hair again.
Yeah. He's more clean cut. Corporate Julian. Anyway, so he went from Afro Elvis to Afro Mars, Bruno Mars type of thing.
That's such a good one.
If you listen to his past, you'll notice that this is a big change from what he was doing. Can't Feel My Face, which has a long drawn out intro. It's the first song the DJ puts on to the club to get everybody loose and ready to go on a dance floor and not really dance. Maybe they'll do a Joe Dove dive dance. And of course, this is a podcast, so you can't see all this fun. But it was, it was nice, but it's not live drums. And you can hear that kit of the balance in the background. It's that zoop, 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 zoop. It's almost looped. And he was seeming to try to emulate Prince, maybe even Michael Jackson. But in Starboy, on this album, he becomes his own. He breathes his own voice into the album. The sound of this album elevates to a new level, and the production quality is on an elevated tier, like an awakening from an earth-shattering event. So this is the time in the podcast where we get into my favorite tracks. And then this is where Julian's going to be like, what? Man, you whack. But,
but you is whack, yo.
But you is whack. You just have to deal with it. The first self-title, Starboy, its old self is visiting. It's really like peeking out of the box. The opener here has a quality that is improved, though, from his previous albums. And this is where we get the first taste of our boys, Daft Punk, who, what are they doing now? Like, did they take their helmets off and become people, or?
No, I mean, I don't think they ever took their helmets off, but I mean, we all know who it is at this point. You know, they tried to keep the secret.
Yeah.
But regardless, what hasn't changed is the fact that they're still producing monster hits.
Oh, there you go. The second track, Party Monsters, a little slower than I expected, but it was fun. Now, False Alarm comes on. Now, that's a cool song. It was probably the entrance way, the gateway to his transformation.
False Alarm! That's a really good vibe.
Yeah, it's a great track.
Crack?
It's like track. I said track.
Oh, I'm about to say great crack.
Great crack.
We might have to have a conversation after this.
No conversation. It's like him stepping away from his, trick kit sound and going right into like an emulated sound, which is more distinctive and independent from what he was. Rocking is the most fun track on the album. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's probably like one of the ones I've heard on the radio, but not paid attention to because it's just how I am. And then we get into the sixth song, Secret, which is my favorite song on the album. I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking in your sleep. And then all of a sudden, there's this part that I go, oh, because there's a dope riff from Pale Shelter from Tears for Fears, one of my favorite bands from the 80s.
Dude, I don't even listen to them, and I know who they are because of you.
Yeah.
I mean, I only know that. I know that one song or those two songs, right? But
no, everybody wants to rule the world, and I'm sure you know that one.
Well, it's interesting. When I put you onto this, I didn't know that. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's a.
But you know what else is interesting?
Synchronicitous. What?
That you seem to like the songs where it's always some creeper watching or listening to somebody while they don't.
They don't notice.
Have you noticed that though? Like,
maybe.
Okay, false alarm. Okay.
Yeah. I like that song. I like the one where he's checking out his chick sleeping. That's a good one. I like Every Breath You Take when he's looking in the window and Crash Into Me where he's looking in the window at the chick. Is there like a voyeur thing? I don't know. Anyway, let's get out of there before I get canceled. It was such a dope blend mixing in that Pale Shelter. I thought that was epic, and it made it the top chart on there for me. But it was real out, and then it went right back into his own sound and his own track. And I respect that a lot because it's like a lot of times when people sample, they just sample to have that, okay, everybody knows this song. They're going to listen to me because I'm making a version of it. This guy, he was like, no. I'll give you a little taste of what you knew, and then I'll go right back into my world so that you know what I'm bringing.
Yeah, it's like the song is not dope because of the sample.
Right.
And what's interesting, I was just having this conversation with my wife yesterday because I was showing her some plugin that I was really interested in, and she was telling me how she was asking me like, "Wow, do people in the industry use this because it enables so much, right? It's like this cheat code where you can kind of skip so many steps." And
Genie.
Right, and I told her yes. I mean, in reality, it's not just this one. It's so many. It's a plethora of plugins that producers use to transform trash into what we hear on the radio. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's like she was like, well, I like samples when the song is not good because of the sample. So this is a good example of that.
Perfect. And like I said, the way he blended it just made it chef's kiss. So it was a very nice, like a hug from you guys in the 80s. Here you go. I really appreciated that. And this is to me the Cocoon. This is when he's like breaking away from all of it, in this album specifically, where he's breaking away from all like the club beats that he used to do and just kind of generic stuff.
There's still a lot of them in there, and I think this is worth mentioning because we didn't pick albums, or at least I didn't pick an album for you, and I think you did the same, where it was after, where they had transformed already. We were picking albums where that transformation was happening, where there were some songs that were still old him, and then some songs that were new him or her.
Right. True. Good point. Then we move on to True Colors. This is a sex song. It starts right off with like some hard ass breathing. Like, that's very sexy, right, ladies?
Again, do you guys see the pattern here?
Yeah. There was some talking Mac, he's like, hey baby, how you doing? And it, like I said, it's a total pickup song. It's fun, but it's not one of my favorites. Stargirl Interlude. This one was mine. I was like, ooh. Yeah. Minute I heard it, I was like, oh yeah. And this is with my homegirl Lana Del Rey. Homegirl like I know her. This is the type of music that I told people would become popular in the future. And you know what, friends? That future is now.
Yep. Definitely now.
It is. This is like that Massive Attack backdrop where there's like these tethers of like different sounds that are peaking in the background that when it's all blended together, it just sounds like so almost otherworldly. I absolutely love it. And Lana Del Rey is just like, it's an experiment, and I'm here for every minute of it.
I just want to point out that you said Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey? Can you cut that?
Sure we got it. We got it recorded.
It'll be at the end of the episode. Lana Del Rey. All right. Now, song number 9, Sidewalks. Here we go, friends. It's Kendrick Lamar. It's a great song. I was just surprised it kind of stayed in one like tone. It didn't pop around. Like Kendrick usually like, he gets you bopping, you twisting your head, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, and you start jumping. But he just kind of kept it in one tone. He just kept it one melodic, and I was surprised. But it was okay.
Hey, man, maybe he was just trying to cash in a paycheck.
Maybe. He's like, I'll show up, push some buttons, and go home. 6 Feet Under. It's fun, but it's slow. And Love to Lay is another sexy song.
Wait, but hold up. For 6 Feet Under, how fast can somebody go when they're 6 feet under?
6 feet under, right? I mean, it depends how.
Unless you're Dig Dug. Yeah, brought it back. I can bring it back sometime. That was one of my favorite games. That was one of my favorite games.
There you go. That makes a lot of sense. That's good. That was a good throw.
Wait, what are you trying to say makes a lot of sense?
Dick Dug.
Trying to say because I'm Hispanic that I know how to dig?
No, wasn't even. I'm saying Dick Dug knows how to dig.
Guys, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me today, but proceed.
So Love to Lay was another song that I thought was a sex song. Started to build up that way, but then all of a sudden it played and it was like, nah, this is a fun one. And I was like, oh, okay, nice twist. Nice fooling me there, buddy. Songs 12, 13, 14, and 15 were good. There was nothing that really stood out. And then all of a sudden, Die For You popped. And that was like, ooh, this one's good. It's like a taste of the past where that beat is looped in, but it's still elevated and bigger. And it sounds much more clearer. The quality of sound is very crisp. And it's a ballad. It kind of sings to whom he's trying to pick up. And it sings to us, the listener, because it is swaying us into changing the perception of what one person is. So I was very, very much impressed in that. And of course, you can't talk about The Weeknd without the most famous song from him. The one even I knew because I think it was in a movie or something. But I Feel It Coming. This is the conclusion of the transition and a full throw into his future sound. A total bop. It's a jam I've heard before, and Daft Punk put their stamp on this album. And on The Weeknd, because after this album, working with them, he pulled that sound out and he never looked back.
Yeah, this is where now we go into the after, right? And you can see in After Hours, his next album, you see that change. It's so evident now. He's full on synthwave. He's that 80s resurgence. Like he's not apologetic about it. He's just full on. Like almost every song is there. He's almost you know what I mean. Like you said, he's evolved.
Yeah. All right. Well, this ends the Dove dive on my side, and let's Julian jive into what you felt about whom I put you on, and that is my homie, R.I.P. Hunky Dory by David Bowie.
I was about to say your homie's Hunky Dory. Yeah, guys. So I was put on the Hunky Dory by David Bowie. Interestingly enough, I've always heard of David Bowie. I've always heard great things. Not just great things, phenomenal, game changer, influenced multiple genres, right? But I never, outside of maybe some mainstream songs, I never dug deep, and I was just waiting for the moment. And here it is. Here we are.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Here we are. So David Bowie started transforming right from his single Space Oddity. That's what I learned from the research that I did. Bowie was ready to cross the line, and it's evident in Hunky Dory that he was doing just that. His visual appearance and music was transforming before our very eyes, and he was years ahead of his time. I had to do a lot of research. I had to listen to multiple albums of David Bowie, not just Hunky Dory, in order to truly say that this was the moment he was transforming. So you did a good job, Joe, because this was truly the moment that he was. I mean, you could see, right? You go from the first album he dropped, and he's clean cut. He looks like a man. The style of his clothes. Yeah, and then now at Hunky Dory,
he's got makeup on.
It's kind of questionable. Are you a man? Are you a woman?
It's androgynous.
Exactly. And this is 1971, bro.
Yeah,
this is huge for 1971. Even nowadays, it's something that a lot of people are not comfortable with. So right off the bat, not even talking about the music, that's great. It's great that there was individuals so ahead of their time and so comfortable with who they were, and we're so comfortable showing that to the world. So let's dive in. Number one, changes, right?
Turn the face around, changes.
Right. So this is one of those songs that I've heard before. Probably one of two that I've heard from David Bowie. So right off the bat, it was nostalgic because it was good to know that, okay, well, it's not too far out for me. I've heard this before. And it's a good song. I mean, I gotta say it's not my favorite though. Even though it's a great song, it's a classic song, it's got a really catchy hook. After listening to this album, I realized more of what I love from Bowie, and this is like mid-tier for me, right? In terms of my opinion, my liking. Number two, Oh, You Pretty Things. This one just has this line where he says, "Put another log in the fire for me." It has no meaning to me. I don't feel any personal connection to this line, but just the way he sings it. Put another log in the fire for me. I'm totally off key there, but the way he hits that, and
it still sounded better than me though.
The passion and the melody he chooses. I literally was at the end. I was on the last song and I was still singing that line. That's how good it was. So now number three, 8-line poem. This is one of my favorites.
It was like a jam session.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
the simplicity of the melody and the instruments, right? They were just these tasteful riffs, these piano stabs. Everything was perfect to lure you in because the real showcase was the lyrics. Obviously, hence 8-line poem is super poetic. It has this sad undertone, but just the words he's saying, every line is like, it's like a story in itself. Especially this one where he goes, "The mobile spins to its collision," and he adds this effect to its collision, and it sounds like he's like he got stuck in the windmill and it's taking him around. So it was really cool to see the word match the sound in a way. So really cool. Number 4. Life on Mars, another one of my favorites. To me, this is probably the most beautiful song on this album.
It's a great song, yeah.
Lyrically and melodically, and he builds off of Space Oddity, right? He builds off of that sound that he started to create for himself with Space Oddity, and you could tell here that it's more refined and it's not played out either. It doesn't seem like he just copied himself and then kind of just redid it, because artists will do that sometimes. They'll be like, "Oh, you know what? Well, this song had so much success that we're just going to do it again in a different key." But no, very good. And I just love what it stands for because it's 1971. Life on Mars, what's happening in that time in America that makes this, we're going to the moon. We're trying to get to the moon. Were we at the moon at this point in 1971?
We were going to the moon. We were already at the moon because the moon was done in the 50s.
Right. So it was.
And ironically, real quick, we're going back to the moon, baby.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
This time. This time and for different reasons. But yeah. But yes, but again, he's just so far from 4 songs. What I'm learning from David Bowie is that he's very much talking about the world and what's going on, and obviously mixing his experience in that. But it's not like The Weeknd, right? I was talking to you before the episode, Joe, where even though The Weeknd has an amazing sound, he's got an amazing voice, he's got the money, right? Yeah. One of the key differences and one of the things that to me makes David Bowie so much more impactful is what he was talking about, what he stood for, what was on his back while he was writing this music. And to me, The Weeknd is, it's good music, but it really kind of just ends there, right? Like the substance.
Yeah, there's no change in the geopolitical landscape.
Exactly.
After this album, unlike David Bowie. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So just something to know. It's not good. It's not bad. But a lot of times, why is music so important to us? Because it has this emotional attachment to our lives, and that's where I feel David Bowie is masterclass at this. Even 4 songs in,
Yeah.
So Cooks. I didn't write much about Cooks. I liked it. It was okay, right? Yeah. Quicksand, again, he's just flexing his poetry. So poetically rich. He set this great canvas of music. It's so simple. The music is simple and it's not at the same time. It's just right. And then he just lets his words just play endlessly over it, kind of like Bob Ross. Just put a little cloud over here and
happy little keys, happy little
keys here, and a little melody right here. Oh, don't forget about this. Right, that's exactly what he's doing on Quicksand. It's great. Number 7, Fill Your Heart. Kind of like the Cooks. I mean, the only thing that I kind of like really noted that was that it blends really nicely into the next song, into Andy Warhol. He does one of those things where like the song really doesn't end. It just continues into the next.
Yeah, I love that when they blend. Yeah. There's like the seamless transition. That's what it's called.
And then Andy Warhol is the next song. So just because I don't have a lot of experience, tell me who is Andy Warhol? What is the...
So Andy Warhol is the guy that he's coined saying, in the future, everyone will get their 15 minutes of fame, which he's right. We have YouTube. He was ahead of his time. He was a visual artist who was murdered in his own office because he ignored somebody. And I don't think he was dead at this time. I think he got murdered in the 80s, but he got shot. And I think it was like a fan or a secretary did him in. And wow. he was very eccentric, money. And he stood out because he had almost like Truman Capote style about him. He was round glasses and like platinum blonde hair or white hair, depending on your perspective. And he's famous for drawing, like, if you ever see those Campbell soup like posters where they're like all different colors, but it's Campbell soup.
Yeah.
Like that's a key feature in a lot of his art.
Well, that's interesting because the intro, right? So the end of Fill Your Heart into Andy Warhol, it goes into this very entrancing melodic and rhythmic sound, right? And I mean, basically, based on what you just told me, it feels like Andy Warhol, right? Mm-hmm. Right from the beginning. It then goes into this bluesy guitar rhythm. And honestly, I heard Radiohead. Like I heard, like this could have been kind of like the start of like a Radiohead's type of style, based on the guitar melodies and the way David Bowie is singing. So very interesting because we're on song number 8, and I can already see how many genres he's really pulled from.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, song for Bob Dylan. So I know who Bob Dylan is, and so I was really intrigued to listen to the song because I was like, wait, is this going to be like is this a diss song back in 1971? Right? But it's...
Fuck you, Bob Dylan.
But it's not. It's more like is more like a monologue. Like he's talking maybe about the life, the fictional. Is that did I use the right word? Monologue?
Yeah,
maybe. Right. Yeah. So he's kind of like fictionally dictating an experience and the way Bob Dylan is. Right. So I found that interesting that I haven't really experienced that in music at all, because in reality nowadays, whenever somebody else is talking about somebody else, it's usually because they're being dissed. It's usually because they're calling them out for something. So in this way, it wasn't a diss song. It wasn't a love song. It wasn't like a praise song either. It was just kind of like a, this is who he is song, which was interesting. Number 10, Queen Bitch. This was great. This is another one of my favorites because, first of all, the title is amazing and the music backs up this badass title, and he's supporting the LGBTQ plus community. He's breaking more barriers with this because he's depicting this transgendered woman being a badass, and he exemplifies the beauty and strength in being different and owning it and relishing it. So that was a top one for me because everything fit, everything worked on that for me. And then the last song was the Bowie brothers.
Meh.
really kind of meh, I mean, the melodic, Bowie uses a lot of jazzy chords in his music. And I think later in his career, he did that more so than he was doing now. So I got to say that the musicianship was nice, but yeah, it was pretty mad. I mean, after Queen Bitch, it's you gotta like soar for the next song, or it just kind of falls flat. And that's it, man. So thank you. I mean, in reality, I really like this album a lot. And it was really nice to see. It was really nice to listen to all of his previous albums and albums after as well, to really get a sense of where he was here on Hunky Dory. And thanks.
Yeah, man. So real quick, I just want to edit myself because Andy Warhol didn't die from assassination. He got shot by a very prominent feminist who kind of started the feminist movement. But he actually died after a gallbladder surgery because of his irregular heartbeat. So check out your heart, kids. Make sure heart disease is a real thing.
What was your favorite off of this album?
I love Life on Mars. The Oh Pretty Things. I love that song. Of course, Changes is the one everybody knows. And 8-line poem, because I love the jam in the beginning. Yeah. It stings. And the only thing that I wish, like, next time you're in old dirty Jersey, make sure you stop by, because I have this on vinyl. Oh. And hearing this on vinyl is way different than hearing this on Spotify.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that is one of the things that I feel is a barrier for a lot of kids nowadays, is the sound quality. Because, I mean, it's just, you cannot compare the sound quality from then to now, because the technology was just different. So that is something that I keep evident in my mind when I'm listening to albums, when you put me on to albums from the 80s and from the 70s and the 60s, because it affects the music in a way. If you're not listening to it on vinyl or the highest fidelity, right? If you're streaming something from Spotify, that's compressed. No matter how high quality they tell you they give you, it's compressed, because it's the only way that it actually gets to your
stream it.
Exactly, right? So even if you're listening to it in such high fidelity, there's a difference in this quality, right? So I feel like, I don't know, it's just a side note. There's a barrier of entry there for individuals who are listening to this music, and they've heard all this modern music and what it sounds like and how big and immersive it can sound, and then you put on David Bowie and it sounds very thin, right? So it can be a deterrent, but it also depends on, are you into lyrics? Because if you're into lyrics, and if you're into lyrics that mean something and stood for something and changed lives, I mean, this is where you need to
be. David Bowie loved the sound of classic rock, but this one changed the sound and style forever. And David Bowie's always going to be a vinyl favorite of mine because I remember my dad had the record player when I was a kid. And you know what's even funnier about record players? They're much smaller now that I'm an adult. They're these giant things. Like, it was always in this giant case, and the speakers were like twice my size and everything. But now as an adult, it's like, oh, my speaker's like a little bit bigger than my iPhone. And, the turntable's not that big anyway. But I would always bob my head to this when he played it when I was a kid. And then it faded from my memory until I hit my teenage years. And that's when I started walking to Sam Goody. I've mentioned that in the earlier episode. So if you're new to the show, make sure you go back in time and check us out in the beginning. Humble beginnings. I used to walk miles or take long bus rides to Sam Goody because I love music. And, the Hunky Dory album was something I wanted on CD. And Hunky Dory, more than any other album, because it not only had an impact on me, but it also had an impact on the bands that I love. Because, like I said previously, the Eurythmics, you may know them as Sweet Dreams Made of These. Who am I? You know that song, Julian? Probably if they sang it.
Wait, sing it again.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Yes. That, like Eurythmics, they were very heavily influenced by David Bowie. So, I had come to find out that the guy that I was listening to, like, pretty much influenced all the people I loved growing up. So it meant a lot to make sure I listened to even more of his work. And then I found out he had his CD section used to be so much that he was like half of the D section or the B section, depending on how they alphabetize it.
Yeah.
And I remember going to, do you remember Cross County? Because you used to live in Westchester.
The mall? The sport Cross, the Cross County Mall.
Yeah, remember that spot?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I used to go to that Sam Goody, and I used to always pick up different albums from them, CD versions. And like, I remember they had one guy that looked like David Bowie, and they had one guy that looked like Iggy Pop in the store. And I remember like vividly, going up to him because he was an old school music head. And like every time I listened to this album, he was androgynous, just like David Bowie, but back in the 90s. So I always think of that dude. I have no idea what his name is because it's been 25 plus years. But I always think about the good times I had going to those stores and picking up things and, basically building my music collection and discovering more because I had always heard Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. But the guy was like, did you know that he has other stuff? And then like, I went into like this whole section and really diving into Bowie. And, I remember when Bowie died when I was in China, my first trip to China, experiencing this huge country, everything that's been going on. And then right in the middle of it, I get that message that popped up that David Bowie passed. And I was like, And I remember going right back to Hunky Dory. At the time, I had it on my iPod that I took with me because it was an 18-hour flight. But, David Bowie had like his own bookend. I remember when I was young and I was listening to him, and when he died, when I was much older listening to him, and I remember the impact that it had even then, because his songs, his tunes, his orchestration of the music itself just kind of felt like I'm going to make a statement, and my statement is going to, aside from projecting what could be, I'm going to change everything around me. So that's what always stuck out to me about David Bowie. He's accepted the fact that we don't have to be what we are. We can be more than just a clone of our parents. We can be more than just another person running on the cog that is the great world. And Bowie's forever going to be one of my go-to artists that I listen to because of that. And he's got a lot of other badass tunes, and we'll probably put you onto that off topic.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously didn't talk about them on this episode, but I think I listened to a total of like 4 different albums just to really get a good sense. No, absolutely. I mean, I would say that my favorite song by him is not even on this album.
Is it Let's Dance by any chance?
No, it is not.
Oh, wow. Which one is it then? I'm curious. Don't leave me in suspense, bro.
I guess both you And our audience will have to come back to the dungeon sometime.
Oh.
No, but you said something that really struck a chord. You know, it reminds me of my junior year in high school where, you know, they got these, you know, they had these programs where, you know, what are you going to be, an engineer or an architect, right? And then you got these, like, they make you answer these questions, and then they got this result that comes out. And I know it was within good intentions, right? That, okay, you know, we're trying to help, students figure out what they want to be, because it's that hard, right? But there's so much pressure around that time, specifically in junior year, because you know how junior year, those are the real grades that college sees. Senior year, you start to fuck off, and then, you know, because you're already in college or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it really it's honestly, it's just a matter of perspective and approach. You know, I feel like what's truly missing from the educational system is more exploration. More programs and extracurricular activities that really will broaden a student's view of the world, other than just math, science. I don't know what the other ones are: English and geography, or English and
history.
History. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. That the world is just bigger than that. And I feel like that's what's missing. And just to tie into what you were talking about, David Bowie, you know, that we're not, nobody is a one size fits all. And especially me, it took me a long time to figure that out, to figure out what I wanted to do. I liked music, but how was I going to be in the music? Was I going to be a singer? Was I going to be an artist, a producer? You know, turns out that I was all of them, but, you know, whatever. But also, in the same topic of school, right? School starts in September here in the United States, usually end of August, beginning of September. Joe, doesn't it seem like the beginning of fall is always such a transformative time?
Yeah. You know, like the seasons change, the weather changes. Like you're changing because you're getting brand new clothes to go back to school.
Yeah. More. It goes so deep. Like you said, school starts, flings end, right? They even call it cuffing season, right? They even have a name for it, right? Yeah. You know, and it goes, and like for me, it went even deeper than that, because, you know, if you listen to our past episodes, you'll see that I moved around a lot during my childhood, right? And this moving around was usually denoted by the start of school, you know? And so it really was a time that was hard for me, because I was constantly the new kid at school. And while that has its perks, in reality, it made it really hard for me to solidify relationships growing up as a kid. So it was super transformative time, and it wasn't even by choice most of the times, you know? And so I wanted to mention that, because even though we're talking about transforming and how transformations are good, and they you know, people evolve into who they are, it can also be a vicious cycle. You know what I mean? It could also be something that you don't really want to happen, or the way it's happening is making you uncomfortable. So that's pretty much me. I mean, in reality, I kind of went through that a lot. I went through some good changes too, but there was also a lot of that, like, man, why am I here again? Or why is this happening to me? And I think as a young kid, we all go through that.
Yeah.
And I really related to myself with David Bowie, in the sense that, you know, he was this chameleon, and he was constantly transforming in periods of his life. And that's how I felt. I felt that I wasn't one person. Every year, every few months, I was a different person. And at times I thought that was wrong. And now as an adult, I'm like, that was my story. That's who I was. And that's it.
That's it.
I'm really bad at ending stories, like just kind of coming to like a succinct end. I feel like I'm one of those songs that just kind of fades out. You know, like they're playing the chorus over and over again. It's fading out for like 30 seconds.
As David Bowie's friend says, it's better to burn out than to fade away.
Oh man, who's David Bowie's friend?
Freddie Mercury from Queen. Yeah, R.I.P.
R.I.P.s.
Yeah. All right, so tell me about the weekend. Let me hear your story.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, how was the weekend have any impact on you?
Oh, facts.
You went on Bowie. We both went Bowie. See, let me tell you how strong Bowie's music is. He both impacted all eyes.
Well, isn't that a testament to itself that, you know, I put you onto the weekend because I love his sound now and because I saw that transformation happen as well. But when I was introduced to the weekend, it was, I think, around like 2015, right? That's when he had just dropped an album. And his music was new to me. His style was new to me. Like you talked about, like his crazy Afro / Bruno Mars thing he had going on.
Yeah. He went from Elvis Fro because he had like that curl.
Yeah.
To like Bruno Mars, like cut, but like not a Caesar. Yeah. But like a Afro Mars. It was perfect.
But in that time, he was literally just making club music and, you know, slow jam and like baby making music. Like that was his MO back then. And during that time in my life, as always, I mean, I think this is just a recurring theme. I was definitely going through transformative process, man. In 2015, I was at a job that I didn't want to be at anymore. So I was trying to find another job. I was just, you know, I was moving out of home. There was a lot of transitions that were happening, and it really had nothing to do with the weekend. In reality, I relate, like I told you, like we've mentioned a couple times, I relate much more to David Bowie in what he stands for, what he stood for. But good music is good music, you know, and the weekend makes really good music, and that's really it. There's really not too much to say about that.
All right, everybody, this is the section Behind the Beat, where we have such a special guest this week. You may know Mark Mallman from his marathon song cycles or the amazing work he has done on the soundtracks of your favorite video games, maybe even the hit song that he did for the Rick and Morty show Flowers. I know him as my music hero and the inspiration to be a better podcaster from TikTok. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Mallman to the dark depths of the Dis Dungeon.
Hi, Dis Dungeon.
What's up, brother? It's been a while since we got to chat. We've been talking on TikTok on and off for a better part of like 2 years now, or through maybe even the entirety of the pandemic. And
yeah, dude,
it's been an incredible experience getting to know you. And I'm so grateful that you're able to hop on and come in the pod with us.
Yeah,
I've got my man Julian with me, who's my co-host with the most.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And,
hey, Mark.
Awesome.
And we just got a couple of questions to hang out with you, groove,
Sweet.
and then go on with the world. So my first question is the world, right? So much going on these days. So one thing I've always noticed is your style is a blend of like synth and punk with like a little Bowie gland. Can you elaborate on the inspiration for your music journey and style?
Yeah, when I started out, you know, everybody remembers, I think, when they first hear something clicks. And when I first heard Bowie, I was probably 13, and I was like, oh, shit, this is the shit. Actually, Lou Reed was the first that I was like, oh, fuck, there's a world out there outside of the suburbs. And I was like into it, you know, but I didn't know much about what city life was. And you know, so even though it was stuff from the 70s and I was sitting there in the 80s, I wasn't like really into, now I am, but people, you know, you're a kid, you don't really know how to reach and learn about Giorgio Moroder or anything like that. You're just kind of fed whatever. And so I got into Bowie, and that really influenced my early records. And then as more I became a music writer and a music historian, kind of referring to different periods of music within my own music. Kind of my sound is, a lot of my fans are more music heads than the fans of a certain genre. You know, when I come to a show, there's punks and there's, you know, record collectors, and everybody's like, same with my TikTok. Everybody's just a diehard music fan. So it reflects in my personal music, you know, not the composing, but.
Awesome.
And I actually, that would lead me to a follow-up question. Have you ever taken any voice lessons, piano lessons? when I listen to your music, I feel like you're super comfortable with your instrument. I don't know if that's just all by ear or just little insight on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I started playing piano when I was 3, and I started lessons probably when I was 6. And I was pretty rebellious, even at that age. Like, no kid wants to take classical piano lessons, and my parents were really worked with me on that instead of forcing me. And then, so when I was 11, they switched me to the Conservatory of Jazz, and then that was okay. But I really wanted to play stuff that I was familiar with. Classical music didn't have any bearing on my existence, but I knew that my dad listened to the Doors in the garage or something like that, or he had listened to The Who or something on the classic rock stations. So I started yeah, man. So I I kind of classic rock was all we had to listen to out there. It was the best music. I didn't have any access to punk or anything, because it's my city where I grew up, Waukesha. When I was younger, it was its own city. It wasn't eaten up by suburbs like it is now. It's full of just chain conglomerates like everywhere else in the world. But when I was younger, we couldn't get the reception from the College Station in Milwaukee. So but I was like, shit, I want to learn how to play the Doors. I want to play like Ray Manzarek. So I found this guy in a cover band, and I switched to him when I was 13. That's when I really started figuring out that I was going to be a musician for the rest of my life. And so I started guitar when I was 13, and I use that a lot in my job now. I use guitar a lot. I use keyboard a lot. And, I hire a lot of session musicians now. But over the years, you learn more than you do in piano lessons, but the lessons as a kid were a good base, music theory in high school. And, now I'm in the book, Music Theory for Dummies. But when I was, and I'm still a dummy, man. I'm still a dummy,
Nah.
But, I do kind of have a blue collar approach to music theory, but I use it all the time. Especially if you're composing with an ensemble, but that's few and far between. Now I'm writing for TV, so there's not any ensemble composing at this moment.
Wow. So you have a very dedicated following, and your music performances are pretty emotional and uplifting. So much so that you've been given a Walk of Fame star in front of the nightclub First Avenue in Wisconsin. Right, I believe.
Minneapolis,
Minnesota.
Yeah, sorry, Prince owned it. So.
Oh, Prince. So you have a star in front of Prince's club. That's amazing. First of all, how does that feel to have that type of recognition?
It feels great. I've had it since 2002. It just showed up one day. Prince doesn't own the club, or the state doesn't own the club, but it's the club from the movie Purple Rain. And that's where they recorded the song Purple Rain, a few other tracks on that record.
Whoa.
There's I think there's 200 stars, maybe 100 stars. The whole building is covered in stars, and they're about I think they're about probably 4 feet by 4 feet, maybe 5 feet by 5 feet. And it's everybody that's made a mark in some way at that club, from U2 to Adele to Pink to Gogol Bordello and Husker Du, and my star is in the middle of it's below Ice Cube and above Joan Jett. So
wow,
that's a great spot.
It's
man.
a great
that's
place
a great
to
place.
be, man.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm right next to my buddy Al in Low, and it's a cool place, it's nice to be recognized, I mean, for something, because we don't, in this business, you don't struggle, but it's not you don't go in it for the money,
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and is that along the same vein as the music marathon you did from New York to LA? Yeah, I mean, you knew we were going to bring it up because we definitely have to know more.
Yeah. I got to start doing some video about that stuff. I have a whole documentary for a lot of those things. And once I started writing books, I kind of left performance art behind. But I I started out, in art school. I went for performance art and media installation and kind of just basically weirdness because I didn't want to go to music school. I wanted to break rules, not follow them, And so I started doing like these long form music performances, like in a refrigerator box for 12 hours, or just lock yourself in a room and record for 12 hours, or stuff like this, like really exploring like how you can bypass the conscious mind and access sort of the subconscious information that maybe is more in your nature and not civilized indoctrination kind of, a lot of times when we play music, we're not playing totally from the soul because we've been, conditioned to the society that we live in so that we can function. And so sometimes most music is, most ideas are not our own, but I've always been like curious as to what's that primal light, what is the caveman want to play and it's in the DNA. So I think the way to do that is to just kind of approach it from a ceremonial kind of nonstop way until like for instance, if I do a set and it's an hour long and I'm in a club and I'm playing my own music, my body and my mind go to a certain trance state, but if I was with my old cover band and we played, typically you play 3 hours, 3 45-minute sets. By the time you're in the third set, you're deeper, much deeper. You're 3 times deeper connected to the music than you are. It's like anything else. If you're, swimming for 20 minutes, you have a different connection to the water than you do if you're in there for 3 hours. And I was really interested in how I can go deeper than that, So I started with a 26-hour song, and then they take a lot to organize. And then in 2005, I did a 52-hour song, and in 2010 did a 72-hour song. And, you have to organize like hundreds of musicians and lyrics and a venue that will do it. And then, we did that. And that one, I finally accessed my subconscious. I started hallucinating and I just, for the last 10 hours, my subconscious took over. That one, I finally accessed it. The first 2, I was just awake and playing music. And so that was cool. And then I was done, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And then, my friend who's a technologist, he likes to do A&R with projects with me because he can, not A&R, R&D for his company. He's like, hey, I got these robots. You got any ideas? And so I'm like, yeah, we could do this and this. And so he was like, oh, I want to test different cellular networks. This was in 2012. See how robust they are.
Yeah.
So
really cool.
I was like, well, how about we get a vehicle and we travel from one side of the country to the other and we webcast the whole thing. It wasn't streaming then; it was webcasting, and we'll.
I remember the webcasting.
Yeah, I'll be in the back.
Days, yeah.
I'll be in the back. We took this van and we kind of gutted the back seat, and we made a sort of a sliding tray with with like keyboards and MIDI controllers and all this shit, and then we had about 9 cameras mounted on the vehicle, outside, inside. We had a person running a switcher and a person whose main job, this guy in the passenger seat, was just to switch from Verizon. We had Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and his job was to watch the signal and see which one was the strongest and switch when we needed it.
Wow.
That was all he did. And so we were on the road for 8 days. And I stayed in the back, and I had like a lot of automatic stuff going, and I had some biohack music going, and it was I don't want to say it was ahead of its time, but the technology we were using was hacked, and some of it had to be built for me at the time. It was we just really kind of forged our own path because we didn't have anything. And now, people, it would be much easier. It's just the physical fatigue. I actually did a lot of damage to my ears on that. That was the only problem that came out of it. But it was very cool. It was different than the hallucinatory one. And so that was that. Cross country was the first I don't know if there has been ever anyone since, but it was the first
I haven't seen anybody.
transcontinental nonstop musical webcast. So
wait, you said you damaged your ears, man. Like, are you?
Yeah, I wanted to know more about that too.
Or like, yeah.
No,
sorry.
That's
not my next question, though. Just a heads up.
Yeah, I was like, sidebar.
Yeah, sidebar. We want to know. You okay? Like
when you go, when you go on anything, when you go on a journey, even when you go on a vacation, you kind of come back and you got to reset, and sometimes I don't recognize that the body is like is not infinite, and like keyboards, you can break them and just buy a new one, or whatever, throw it away and just get whatever. But with the body, you only get one chance a lot of times, and so with the marathons, with the staying up and staying up and staying up. Fortunately, I did break my foot during one. The blood in my boots, the blood swelled and just crushed my ankle. But I don't really know. I don't know if it broke or I don't know what happened. But it I never went to the doctor. I had a doctor come and check my vitals towards the end and there was some problems. But then when we did the cross country one, I guess what I didn't realize was the 78-hour one I wore earplugs, and there were, because it was a club, there's a huge band, but in the whatever 100 I don't even know 8-day one, I had sort of earbuds in, and the thing I didn't realize is in order to hear, you have to be louder than the motor of the van. So I had those in for 8 days, and they were really loud. And I just lost some top end, because with hearing, you damn it, you have a certain, you have a bank account that you have like $100,000 of hearing in the bank, and when you're a kid, you might have a firecracker blow up in your ear, and then you lose $2,000, and then once you reach a certain threshold, when you're older, and the hearing starts going on its own, you notice it. But I noticed it right away.
And in an
just
industry
a little distortion.
In an industry where if we don't have our ears, there's so much that we can't do. It's really a larger question too, right? How do you prevent this long term? It's going to happen, because the more you do it, the more you work in it, it's just going to happen, right?
The more you cash out in the bank, yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating, like that guy who invented the Segway, he drove off a cliff, and then, Richard Petty, someone like that, dies in Richard Petty, right? He died in a car accident on the track, and that's right, it's Richard, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And so it is, I don't believe that Beethoven lost his hearing from sound. I don't believe that to be true. I think it was degenerative and genetic. But here in the music business, I remember I just went to an audiologist or whatever they're called, and they ran the tinnitus test on me, and they did the hearing loss test. And I came back to my buddy Ed, who was engineering a record. We were in the studio, and I was like, "Hey, look at this! Here's my chart. It's this. It's you guys. Have you ever had that done? They give you like a EQ chart. Right. It shows you where your hearing loss is." And I'm like, "Look at all this hearing loss." He's like, "Oh yeah. That's from cymbals and distortion. We all got that." It was not a big deal to him. And so, but now, fortunately, I've always wore earplugs. Well, no, I haven't. I started wearing earplugs in 2007 on stage, but I still use headphones. So, but my hearing is starting to get shitty. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have.
That's fine.
I feel like I have tinnitus, like that where especially on my left side, all of a sudden, just kind of sounds like it's muted all of a sudden, and then slowly. I start to get the hearing back. It happens in my left ear, and it's just all I can do is just take breaks, listen at proper volume. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I guess it's like we have to accept that our hearing's going to go, and the idea is to keep it for as long as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so my tinnitus, like it gets aggravated. I have panic disorder, so like it's interesting. It gets aggravated if I have a lot of anxiety, and when I don't have any anxiety, I have very little tinnitus. But if I have a lot of stress in my life, it's really loud. As when I was at the audiologist, I was like, you know, this is interesting. Do you run into any people that have tinnitus and PTSD? Because I'm sure that's a weird question.
Yeah, my grandfather had both.
My dad, my dad, the doctor was like, "Oh man, I work at the VA hospital." You know, he's like, "It's like two spiders in a jar." Those two, he's like, "Yeah, so many soldiers got tinnitus." That's how it's pronounced. I hate it, but
it's pronounced tinnitus, not tinnitus.
Tinnitus, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've been pronouncing it wrong.
I've been saying it wrong.
Dude, everybody says it that way, so it's like, why don't I just say? But anyways, the doctor was like, that's how it's pronounced. So, anyways, I'm not correcting you. It's embarrassing for me to say it the right way because it sounds dumb. But
I'm gonna start saying it.
But he was like, oh, dude, He was like, "Oh, dude, the fucking." Well, he didn't say that, but he's like, "Oh, man, the Veterans Hospital is a lot of people, you know, who went to fight and they got bombs blown up in their ears, and now they have ringing in their ears, and they have PTSD." And he's like, "They, you know, your autonomic nervous system is rattled by your PTSD." So he's like, "Yeah, it's common, you know, you're gonna have." But now that I'm more, what do you call that? Recovered, I have a lot less ringing in my ears. I should just say ringing instead of tinnitus. Ringing. I have a lot less ringing.
Tinnitus.
Yeah, but there were years where it would like keep me awake and
oh man, yeah. That's what happened to my grandfather. He was in the Korean War, and he had to dig his foxhole and like hide out in one. And all the bombs that were blowing up around him and his buddies, when he came back, that's what all he was hearing. He used to tell me, "Oh, Joey, I thought I'd never see you again." It's like, "Grandpa, you saw me like last week. Wait, hold on. Okay, now speak." And I had to repeat it because the ringing would be so loud. Wow. It would like phase out what was going on. And then I would have to,
Yeah, and it's like not only did he have to deal with the weight on his conscience of fighting and the complications of fighting in a war and the good that he did and the bad that he did. Not only did he have all that, ringing in his mind, and then he's got this ringing that constantly reminds him that he was in a war. It's
exactly,
it's too bad. We don't realize. I think people don't realize how, because when you're a kid, you go to a concert and your ears are ringing the next day, and then it goes away. But then there's going to be one day where it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
moral of the story.
Moral of the story too.
But it's worth it to me. You gotta pay the price for anything you do, and like, I don't know, man. When you're young and you fucking at a concert and it's a Sonic Youth show, I went to many, and just like it feels so good when it's loud.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was in a band,
right? If there's a way to conserve my hearing but feel that bass just thrumping through me, please.
Yeah.
But now we do a lot of listening with our brain and a lot of listening with our eyes. So, now that I go wear earplugs to shows, it's like, oh, I know what's happening. It's a fuck ton of distortion. Or I can take my earplugs out for a second, but whatever,
Yeah. So, can you give us the genesis on how Flowers came about? It's from one of the best episodes of Rick and Morty. I am the Antichrist to you, which had Planet Tina. I grew up with Captain Planet, so it was like, oh my god.
Yeah, definitely. It's for me personally, it's a weird story because it paralleled an experience in my life. But aside from that, Ryan, that's season 4, right? Or is it season 5?
Season 5.
Season 5 asked a bunch of different people to collaborate with him on songs, Blonde Redhead, and I know some other people on songs for that season. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I would like to collaborate with you on a song." And I said, "Okay." And he said, why don't you write the lyrics and add whatever instrumentation you want. So what he sent was a really beautiful sort of acoustic song. And I wrote these lyrics, and then he recorded some vocals and he sent them back. And he's like, it's got to be about flowers. But I just kind of wrote about my relationship with this person. I didn't know I didn't know what the episode was going to be about at all. And then, but he said, the second verse, which is not on the show, he's like, second verse, just have at it, do what you want to add. And so I was like, well, how do we make, an acoustic song sci-fi, without just putting some synths in there, which we did a little bit. But so I was like, I'm going to glitch it. So I glitched and looped and glitched. If you listen to the second verse of that song and the final, it's just full of glitching guitars and glitching tracks. And there's some drum machines,
wow.
but it's still organic, but it's still like futuristic, destroyed. And so then I added a bunch of background vocals and put my spice on it. And then it was a really easy process, I find
for you, maybe.
Yeah, I just find working in television is always really joyful, and the music is it's really nice working in TV, as opposed to other things I've done composing wise. But then I saw the Planetina episode and I was like, holy shit, this is exactly this is exactly the relationship I was in. What the hell? So it was weird, but whatever, man. It's gone. It's past now, and the song lives forever. That's the good thing about songs, You write about an experience, the experience fades, but the song remains the same.
Yeah. For those of you listening, we actually recorded this episode a year ago. No, but now we're recording it again.
You're really gonna let people in on
that? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the the name of this episode is Transforming. So this is. This episode just kept transforming because I think this is the third time we actually.
This is the third time because the first time we didn't record it.
Yeah. I got to make sure I'm still recording here. Let me see. Oh yeah, still going.
Good.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah, nothing like Logic, man. It comes
strong signal.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I use Logic sometimes. What my main setup is like a very retro setup. I use a computer that I had built, and it runs XP. And then I do have a 24-bit system, but it's a lot of like hacks and like rebuilt stuff. The software it doesn't have a wireless card or anything. All the software is from 2002. And so it's
wow.
Yeah, it's all 20. My setup's all 20 years old when I record. And when I compose, I'll do it on Logic. But when I'm recording albums and stuff, I'm using a lot of, I guess it's now vintage software. So it used to be embarrassing to say, but now it's cool to say.
It's cool. Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool. I'm running XP.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have an old silver box computer, sort of the same way. Not as elaborate, but it has my first iPod. Remember the wheel iPod?
Yeah.
And my Zune account. So I keep that because there's a lot of great music that I have. Like we have a lot of music common shares, like Dead Can Dance and Faithless and things like that. Like
those are such deep cuts. Like, if I do a TikTok, to stay in the algo, you got to kind of sometimes do TikToks that are more popular music, and then you do an obscure one, and it reaches less people, but you're always like, this person's a Dead Can Dance fan.
Yeah. And you blew me away with Faithless is, oh my God. Did you listen to their new album? Like you gotta. Yeah. But there was one, you blew me away with Elizabeth Fraser. I always assumed she was scatting. And then when you tell me like how deep her lyrics were, I had to even somebody commented, it was really cool. And you made me dig into something that I loved as a child. and you made me go back.
You mean deeper than the dungeon?
I went deeper than the dungeon, man. I went underground. I was digging a China.
It's really interesting because, like, I don't know where that that kind of myth came about, where everyone will be like, "Oh yeah, they sing, Cocteau Twins sing nonsense." I don't know where that came from, but it must have happened at some point where that like kind of myth got out there, and because it's really common for people to think that. And then you read interviews with her from the time, and the lyrics, she was really put through the ringer by her partner in the band and her baby daddy. Robin wasn't the best person to her from the beginning of the band till the end of the band. They just didn't, and so she put it all in the lyrics. They're really raw and painful. She just
it's dark. Like, Julian, you definitely got to dive into that.
Okay, all right, I gotta check this out.
It's funny.
I gotta put
my favorite bands like that I listen to a lot, like Joy Division or Fela, it's like Fela, it's so much rhythm, but sometimes it's not even in English. So it's like, but with Joy Division, it's basically not in English either because you can't fucking understand what he's saying. And I don't know. It's something like, there's something really cool to that. I was reading Sonic Youth lyrics today because I'm working on a tune that sounds like them. And it's like, I don't remember any of those lyrics. They're just kind of like, really like, they're sometimes lyrics obscure the melody because they're so pointed, and I think sometimes it's a song that has lyrics that you can't understand or lyrics that you can't that don't make any sense. They allow the melody to breathe because there can only be one center of attention. I think that's why a lot of hip hop there's not singing in it because if they were singing it would draw from the meaning of the melody because, if, Kendrick was singing full on all the time, you might not listen to the lyrics.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Kendrick because he has a way of not only obviously saying so much and being so poetic, but he has such a way of orchestrating that through the production. Obviously it's not him, but he's obviously directing a lot of it. So
yeah,
and it's especially in those moments, in those interludes, in those transitions where he's not rapping, where you get so much more context about what he's actually saying.
Yeah, it's really important. It's like people will be like, "Well, it's not singing." It's like, yeah, it's not. It's about the lyrics and it's about the rhythm. So why would it? If it's not about melody, why would we put melody in there? It's like you. If you want a cheeseburger, order a cheeseburger, but don't complain if your hamburger doesn't have cheese on it because you ordered a hamburger. So it's like rap and hip hop is not supposed to have, it can have melody, but it works best. That's why people like with Bob Dylan, people are like, oh, what's your favorite thing about Dylan? Is like, well, the lyrics, because there's really nothing else there. There's the singing is bad, and the songs, the instrumentation is hardly anything.
That's why when somebody covers him, it's so much better.
Yeah, in a way, but when people cover them, it doesn't have the same impact because they make it. I was talking about Let's Eat Grandma too. They were just here in Minneapolis last night, and they were playing the 7th Street entry. It's just attached to First Avenue. It's a 250 person room, and he was saying, the lighting guy, I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, the vocals are great. The musicianship is really sloppy. And I was like, that's what makes that band so impactful is it's not slick and tight. You can listen to Churches if you want slick and tight or Chromatics. And it feels really impactful in sort of a distant, prepackaged plastic way. But when you have, another one that does it is Oblivion by Grimes. If you listen to if you listen to the the bass line that opens it up, it's she must have played it by hand because it's not quantized. It's not on beat. It's a little bit off, and you hear it at the end of the loop. And I love that about early Grimes, and I love that about Let's Eat Grandma, where it's like you can hear the person humanness of the electronic music. So often electronic music is just quantized and, it's just so synthetic that the human element is removed and it loses its impact entirely. So I love.
Have you heard of an artist called Bonobo?
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So in one of our future episodes, I put Joe on to his latest album, and that was one of the things that has really gotten me to go back to his latest album. He dropped in about, I think, 2021 it was. It's called Fragments. Anyways, just that he was able to take this dance music, and because of the instrumentation that he was introducing, and it was all by hand, and you could tell that it was by hand. There was another element there that just it just took it.
Yeah, there. It's like his music is really beautiful and well produced and super musical, and it's a difficult place for someone who's formally trained and who's been making like absolutely as perfect. I'm not saying like good or bad style perfect. I'm talking about like making sure everything sounds pristine and the notes are right. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult. I'll meet some people and they'll be like, hey, our bass player doesn't know how to play their instrument, and we're trying to get them to take lessons, and I'm like, no, do not. Mm-hmm. Once they learn, you can't unlearn. When you're just, and I'm like, that person's going to be the most interesting person in their band because they're going to be playing wrong notes. They're going to be just making stuff up that doesn't fit, So I think like for an artist like you're talking about, it's so difficult to get sloppy. It's difficult to be loose because you're going against everything in your brain and your ego that's telling you, yo, it's gotta be perfect. And really, as human beings, we're not perfect. We're flawed. And so what really speaks to us in a production level is, flaws, because it reflects our spirit, That's what I think. I have a lot of struggle in this world, and so I need the sloppiness in my music. I need the rawness in my music, not from just a lyrical perspective, but music speaks, music tells stories without using words, and those stories reflect the human experience. So when music can be off key, when music can be out of time, to me, it tells my body and tells my spirit that, oh shit, my life is off time. My life is off key sometimes. That's why I relate so hard to, Sonic Youth or the Velvets, to use some older music, but even Let's Eat Grandma, to use some newer music, things that are, or Annika, things that are more raw. Someone else might, so the person who's mixing my new record is John Fields, and John has perfect pitch. He's a platinum winning producer. He's produced the Jonas Brothers. He produced Andrew WK's big album. He produced Mandy Moore, and he's mixing my album. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a perfectionist. He's a massive Beatles fan, and he's really one of the most talented people I've ever known. And to work with him is great, but I'm grateful that coming to him and he's turning my mixes back, and they sound. I love how they sound, but there's a lot of shittiness in my recordings, like intentionally, especially like the bass playing or the guitar playing is fucked up, on purpose. And John, fortunately, I remember he told my old drummer in like the 2000s who was going on tours, like, I'm going out with Mallman, and he's like, oh, why are you wasting your time on that indie rock? But now that we're older, I've become more of a perfectionist, and it's just a real treasure to work with and an honor to work with John and have him still hand me back stuff that we understand each other now. I think he understands like when I'm being musical and when I'm trying to not be musical to reflect the human experience. In my last record, he mixed The Beauty Is Alive, and he mixed Happiness, which is the title track for my last record. And it's a funk song, but it's like everything's on point. It's got a lot of horns. Everything's, focused on theory and performance. But the song, The Beauty is Alive, it has like more of like a Cure vibe, and it's got a lot of shit that's, supposed to sound dark and kind of, I don't want to say shitty, but just like really reflecting of the human experience.
Broody, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely. We happen to both love Happiness. That's such a great track. When I asked you to come on, and I was telling Julian about the great opportunity that you gave us to come on the pod, I brought Julian into your music. We were going in my old car listening to your tracks. So you got some good plays out here in New York.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I kind of like, assigned till the 2013, and then I said to the label, "Hey, I want to do my own records for a while," and it's a different world, and putting out Happiness on my own was really it's really fun. It's really fun to put out your own records, and it's nice to have the vinyl,
Yeah, I know. I own your vinyl.
Thank you. I tell my publisher, who I work on the TV stuff with all the time, like, Happiness would be really good in a commercial or really good in a TV show. And so hopefully at some point we're going to get a spot for that, because, for me, it ties so much into my book and the idea of like what I learned, which is like sometimes when you're in a bad mood, it's not a good idea to listen to bad music and too dark music. And sometimes when you're in a bad mood, you should listen to happy music. And so I don't know, just that tune, like that, writing that tune to me was sort of like a point of closure to kind of say like, okay, the book's behind me, the philosophy's behind me. I get it. I know it, and send it out. I just, I wish that it was on a big label, because, I feel like we were reaching an indie publicist, and we were kind of reaching out to people who were like more critic oriented, and they were, like, well, this is too jammy. This is too, it's too slick, too jammy. We're not vibing with it. I know that if we would, put it out on a big label, people would get it, but so hopefully we can get that tune covered by somebody someday, or we can get it out there. I'm going to keep pushing it, because I feel like that song's got a lot of legs. It just hasn't
I agree, man.
seen
I
light yet,
agree. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, like this new record is full of slap bass, and it's
that's my favorite word. Slap bass.
Yeah. It's full of slap bass, and it's weird. So
awesome. I can't wait to hear your new record. Can you give us any like hints about some of the subject matter, or you keeping it under wraps till the release?
Yeah, there's like two parts. There's disco stuff where I'm just like kind of really exploring kind of the direction that I went in my last record. There's a song called Fake Gold Silver Chains, and it's real. It's about rhythm and funkiness, and some things that might be considered ugly in the circle of the critic world, like wah guitar and just like drum machines, not in the cool way. And so I'm just so there's that part, and then there are these sort of I got a song about so I had been working on this bank robbery musical. And so I really like some of those songs. So I guess in a way this album is like Diamond Dogs, David Bowie's Diamond Dogs, because that is half of his musical for 1984, which never got picked up and the other half is a rock record that he's writing. So yeah, half of this record is about robbing banks, and the other half is just about being funky. So
that's cool.
I mean, disco kind of fits in that pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know how it's gonna fit. I have no fucking idea, but I was just like, with climate change and shit, sometimes I'm like, okay.
Sometimes you just got to disco.
If the world ends, like I got to get these songs out,
Yeah, totally.
So it's gonna be a cool record. I don't know what it's gonna be called yet, but it'll come out in summer of 2023. So,
I got something to look forward to.
Mark,
thank you, Joe.
Absolutely.
Mark, we know music has such a power in all of our lives, and it has this ability to really get us through things. And one of the themes that we're constantly referring to here in the Disc Dungeon is, music saving lives or stories saving lives. So would you say music has saved your life? And do you have a concrete example, not a concrete, but just an example that you want to give us?
I think we use totems a lot in our life. We use symbols to represent things. So you might hear someone say, "Oh, that book saved my life," or that song saved my life, and or that that football game saved my life. And it's like you're going through a certain something, and some song that's written is able to kind of like bring up from the depths to the surface and say something that you didn't know how to say. I know that, like, at my mom's funeral, I played the song "Let It Be," and I want to play a happy song, and it opens with, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. It's a song that he wrote he woke up and it came to him in a dream. And so it really was something I wanted to play. And so, it was an emotional moment for a lot of people in I don't want to say the audience, in the church, right?
Okay.
In the crowd. And so I think what music allows us to do is communicate through listening, communicate to ourselves things that we don't know where you can be. That's it. So what I'm saying is, like, the ideas are within us, but the songs draw those ideas out. The feeling is within us, but the song draws that feeling out. So I hesitate on saying like a song ever saved my life, because I think we save our own lives, and we use songs to name. We name the thing that saved our life after the song, I mean, we're saving our lives every day, constantly saving our lives in traffic by driving correctly, and, by not falling off of bridges, or, our lives. It's funny how the body wants to live, the mind wants to live. And so we just walk through our day to day, kind of just living, and the process of that is actually not dying. Yeah, you're staying alive, but you're also not, I don't want to say killing yourself. You're not putting yourself in deadly situations. So how that ties into music is that, like I said, we're living, and we're attributing songs that happen to be there at the time we had a realization. I think for me, with the Happiness Playlist, which is the book I wrote, it was about like waking up one morning with PTSD and panic disorder, and realizing that I couldn't listen to sad music for a while because it was making me worse. And along with other things, it wasn't just music. It was movies, it was food, it was people, and then I, eventually found a group of songs that really spoke to me, and I dug, and now I'm back listening to Nine Inch Nails and all that shit again. But in that period, those 5 years of recovery, it was definitely like a tool, and it would be easy for me and dramatic for me to say, Potato Chips, the song Potato Chips saved my life. Potato chips, crunchy, crunchy, crunch, crunch. I don't want no lunch. All I want is potato chips. It's a jazz tune, and and it would be, I don't know. I saved my life. My friends saved. My friends. We're saving our lives every day. So I guess that's a really long response to saying that music is a symbol.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. That was
you can edit that. You can edit. You'll probably have to edit the shit out of this.
No, people save lives.
Yeah, people, and music is a catalyst in between the people that are saving the lives.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, and like your music is so uplifting, especially in your last album. So maybe you've got some tunes that are people are like, "Yo, Mark Mallman's, the end is not the end, saved my life." So you might have a power that you didn't realize you had over people.
People do say, my, longtime fans or something will say, yeah, I was thinking about my dad and I put the end is not the end on, and it was nice. And I guess like from my mom, who, she died of suicide, and just seeing her struggle with depression her whole life, it made me realize writing a lot of my subject matter and my material talks about the difficulties of existence and the weirdness of the world, and lyrics and sad stuff that for whatever reason it just saying, like, I think we listen to sad music to know we're not alone. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we
there's
listen
a connection
to sad music to know we're not alone. Yeah. Because it's like if you're feeling shitty and you're feeling alone, you feel, I don't know what it is, but we all think we're the only person going through life. Like,
right.
For some reason, our egos think, well, I'm the only person that's ever been dumped. Yeah. I'm the only person in the whole world that's ever broken their toe. And it's like, no, ego. No. You're just a body in the universe that everybody breaks a toe. And all you got to do is talk to some people. And then they're like, yeah, I broke a toe. And then you're like, I'm not alone,
Yeah.
I think songs do that,
Yeah. Perfect. Mark, thank you so much for joining us in the dark depths of the Dis Dungeon. Please let us know. Yeah, it's pretty dark, even though it seems very bright on my end of my screen here.
I did this whole thing with my eyes closed because I think better with my eyes closed. So.
That's all good. Please let us know where they can pick up your book and where they can find your music if they want to get the vinyl, which is my favorite way to listen to music. So go for it.
Yeah, you can find the book at anywhere online, and that's because that's who we're talking to. You can find it sometimes in bookstores, but your best bet is going to somewhere online. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
And buy, and you can get the book. There's also an audiobook out there. My records you can buy vinyl through my website, markmallman.com. And anything's, on TikTok or whatever, you just get the link tree, and Bandcamp, you can buy records, and there's all kinds of way to get vinyl and hard copies of the books. So
perfect. Thank you so much. We're gonna always be in touch, and now that we've exchanged that, I'll make a trip out there. You make a trip out here. We'll go have some grub and some good conversation about music.
I gotta get out there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know. I can't wait. And when you do, we're chilling. Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
All right, Guy.
All right,
Mark, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the good questions.
So, Joe,
what up,
tell them what the tricks of the keys is this week.
Oh, this is a goody gumdrops. This is U2. I Will Follow. So, were you ever into someone that when they walked away, you wanted to follow? Well, many people hear that song, I Will Follow by U2, and might have felt the same.
Wait, Joe, not again, man.
What?
So we're talking about the person watching the other person while they're sleeping. now, I like this person, so I'm going to go follow them.
Are you saying I have stalker syndrome? Like,
I haven't said anything.
All right. You're just implying it. You think that that's a love song, like an unconditional love song. It's like, no matter where you go, I'm going to follow you. Well, it's not. And this like messed with my head because it's like about something that just kind of hurts my soul.
Yeah, even if you don't know, even before we get to you explaining what it's actually about, if you just if the audience member, whoever listening right now, go and watch the video and just watch them play the song, you could. I mean, it's kind of weird without the context of what's actually going on.
Right. It's a dope video too, like playing the guitar, finally jumping around. So by diving into the song, we discovered from Song Fact that the song is not about the ending of a great date, but the love from a mother to her child. He could do no wrong. No matter what you do as a person, your parent will always love you. Unfortunately, Bono's mother died when he was 14. Apparently, she had an aneurysm at her father's funeral. So Bono lost his mom and his grandfather in like basically the same time frame, which is very traumatic. But it was a transformative time for Bono. And he shows how someone can take some of the most terrible moments in their life and channel that pain into a beautiful song like I Will Follow.
That's interesting because I feel like I agree with you on some points, but I got a different message, you know. Right. So from the first verse, it feels to me that his mom is his mom is still there, right? And that his mom needed him as a boy. He literally says, when you said you needed me, and I was looking at myself, I was blind, I could not see. So it seems that his mom is in grief, probably due to her father passing. Right. But he and Bono couldn't see how much in pain she was in. Because obviously she died at the funeral. Right. And so he's saying that I was blind, that I couldn't see the pain that you were in. The pain
that she was right? Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And then the next verse, he says, a boy tries hard to be a man. His mother takes him by the hand. If he stops to think, he starts to cry. Oh, why? So at this point, his mom is still alive, right? And he's talking about how his mom wants him to kind of grow up and be there for him and be something that he really can't. At this moment, he can't. He's trying. He wants to be there for his mom, but he's actually going through it himself. He's grieving. Right. He's also pitying himself as well, probably over the loss of the grandpa or the dad for his mom. And then on the third verse, he to me, I feel like he fast forwards a bit, but at this point, his mom is not dead because he's talking about the four walls being pulled down around him. I was looking through the window. I was lost. I am found. So it seems like at this point, he's lost his grandpa. He's lost his mom, obviously, in the funeral. Now he's lost his home because he's a boy and nobody's there to.
Well, I mean, he grew up with his dad and his brother, so there's people there to still influence his life.
Oh, so see, well, I'm not. Well, again, I'm not. I don't know anything about his life, right? So I'm taking it from.
You don't like U2 like that, man.
Oh, I love. Well, we have an episode where I talk about one of their albums is a very big album in my life, but no, in general, I'm not a U2 person who knows more than
just their music. Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm not just like David Bowie, where like I can appreciate his great music, and I'm probably more into him now than I ever was. But anyways. So what I'm getting from this is that now he's at the point where he's alone. His home is being torn down, maybe metaphorically. He's kind of fast forwarded to the point where both his mom and his grandpa are gone. But then in the bridge is where it really gets like beautiful and comes full circle because his mom's name is Iris, right? And then he continues to say, your eyes make a circle. I see you when I go in there. Your eyes, your eyes, your eyes. He keeps talking about her eyes. But in reality, he's talking about his mom. And when he says, I see you when I go in there, there's nowhere he can't physically go see his mom anymore. See, it's only in his memories that he can go see his mom. And he's talking about his mom because eyes is iris, right? The iris is in the eye. So to me, if I really kind of dissect this song and I think about how it, and I kind of pull it together, to me, it feels like he's really just walking us through from his grandpa dying all the way up until his mom is dead and how he can really only remember her. So he's kind of like, he's not remorseful. What's the word? He's longing for something. I mean, he's hoping that this never happened, but it did. And it shaped him into who he is now. And, the chorus is really what threw me off a bit because I will follow.
Walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. I will follow.
Yeah. So part of me on one end felt like, okay, is he talking about suicide? Is he like, yo, I'm going to follow my mom and grandpa into death? Right. And then the other side of me is it just might literally be like a boy who will follow his parent anywhere, which obviously ties into what you said originally, right? But I just felt that I needed to add that because it it feels like it's not just about the love between a mom and a kid. It feels like it's like the love between them, but also the sorrow of this traumatic event that happened to him that transformed him.
There you go. He also had a daughter. So I'm wondering if he's following in like as a parent.
Wow. Tricks of
the keys.
Joe, this was fun, man.
This is a great one, man. This is great. I really want to thank Mark Mallman for doing the interview with us. Yes, and I want to thank you for bringing me back into the future with our boy, Starboy.
No, and same to you, man. Thank you for finally giving me a really good reason to dive in, and it was never that I didn't want to get into David Bowie. It was just like, man, this guy's got so much music. Like, where do I even start? Like, what do I even listen to? But you Hunky Dory was a great place to start. So thank you so much, and everybody out there, have a great day. Stay safe.
Let us know if you used "I Will Follow" as your wedding song. I'm curious. Reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, and the Gram. Do it for the Gram.